I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the American Finance Association, our 71st meeting and the presidential address. I'm Campbell Harvey, and I'm filling in for Jim Schalheim, the Executive Secretary-Treasurer, who fell ill today. So first, what I'd like to do is to recognize the results of the 2017 election, and congratulations to President Peter DiMarzo. A tough election. President-elect and program chair for next year, David Hirschleifer. And new Vice President, Ken Singleton. The newly elected directors are Pierre Cullen Dufresne, Mara Fascio, and Itai Goldstein. Congratulations. I'd also like to thank for their service the outgoing directors, Ulrike Malmendier, Per Stromberg, and Pietro Veronesi, as well as the past president, Patrick Bolton. Obviously, I'd also like to thank the hard work that the nominating committee did to organize this and all of the candidates that ran for election this year. Next, I would like to congratulate the 2009 Fellow of the American Finance Association, Dick Thaler, for winning the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences this year. Okay, it's customary to talk about the finances of the American Finance Association, and we are in good shape as usual. Our fiscal year ends on June 30th, 2017, and our net income from operations was $576,000, up 70% from the previous period. And when you include interest income, dividends, and unrealized capital gains, our total income for the period was $1.7 million, and our assets currently amount to $17.6 million, and that's up 10% from the previous period. So we are in good financial shape. Our total membership numbers remained basically unchanged from 2016 to 2017. At about 10,600. But the category of regular members, so not including institutions, the active membership actually rose 3.7% over that period. One big thing that was achieved this year, finally, was a revamp of our website. And many of you have probably noticed this. This website is work in progress. We're looking for feedback. There's a feedback button on the website. So we almost wanted to call it beta because it was so rough. And I especially want to thank David, who led the effort to make sure what was being presented to the membership was of sufficient quality that we wouldn't be embarrassed. So again, it needs considerable work, and we need your feedback for that. And we do have some things reinstituted, like the Directory of Finance is now there, which I know many people were looking for over the years after it dropped off. Okay, so I would also like to recognize, and Annette, are you here? If you're here, perhaps stand. The AFA has got an administrative manager, Annette Clark, who does just a great job for us. Thank you, Annette. And see you again. So finally, I'd like to announce that the meetings for next year are in Atlanta, and then the year after, San Diego. A little warmer. So now I'd like to turn over the annual meeting to our president, David Sharfstein.
Thanks, Cam. Let's see. Well, first I want to thank Peter DiMarzo for organizing an outstanding conference. Put a lot of work in, and I think it was a great outcome. Also want to thank Marty Gruber for his work as the association's NBER representative. And what we're going to hear in this meeting is reports from Peter, the program chair, from David Hirschleifer, the vice president's report, Stefan Nagel, the JF editor, and we'll get some special awards. So with that, I will turn it over to Peter.
Great. Well, first thing I want to say is that while I did organize the program, I'm not responsible for the weather that we've had here. So I want to thank, seriously, thanks to many of you who made extraordinary efforts to get here this year. I know it wasn't always easy. It was a pleasure for me working on this year's program, in part due to the efforts of my predecessors, Cam and David, who made improvements to the submission and review process, which I certainly got to benefit from. And I'd especially like to thank the many authors for submitting such high-quality work, the session chairs for doing the tough job of selecting the papers and the discussants. David Hirschleifer, Lin Sun, Yizhu Zhao also helped organize and select the papers for the PhD poster session, which is our second year running with that, and a tradition will likely continue. And hope you got an opportunity to interact with some of the PhD students while you've been here. Thanks also to Jim Schalheim and Gwen Loftus for help with logistics, Mindy Brown-Lee and Julia Mary for assisting with the publishing of the program, and of course a special thanks to Annette Clark, who I know has helped many of you as you've been here and whose experience, expertise, and tireless effort has really been essential throughout the process of bringing these meetings together. Let me just tell you a couple of brief stats about the meetings this year. We had 1,883 submissions. That's a 17% increase from last year in terms of overall submissions, 11% above our previous high in 2015. So as a profession, we're growing ever more productive. We had 247 papers on the program. That was 235 regular submissions, 5 co-sponsored with other societies. 7 papers were solicited by program chairs who had the option to do so this year to complete their sessions. And overall, we had 12.5% acceptance rate to the conference. That led to 74 sessions, 66 regular sessions. We had 3 joint, again, with other societies, 3 panels. Our AFA lecture, Emmanuel Saez did a wonderful job earlier today, and again, our PhD poster session. Just briefly before I conclude, some other stats in terms of session chairs. We tried to target younger folks in the profession in terms of choosing the session chairs. We had about 27% female chairs. In terms of methodology, it was about 83% empirical, 17% theory papers, both in terms of submissions and in terms of ultimately on the program, roughly similar numbers for both. And in terms of overall topic areas, corporate finance represented about 33%, financial intermediation 18%, asset pricing 43%, and 6% special topics. And again, this mirrored the submissions. So I hope you've enjoyed it so far, and you'll stick around for the final sessions tomorrow. And with that, let me turn it over to David Hirschleifer.
Always the highlight of the evening, the Vice President's report. The AFA Travel Grant Awards give PhD students from around the world the chance to experience the AFA meetings and get mentorship and interaction. And this year, these awards are in honor of Steve Ross for his groundbreaking contributions to financial economics. And I'd like to invite the travel grant recipients to please stand up and be recognized. We're very, very glad that you could be here, and I hope you enjoyed the travel and weather and everything about the experience. So the travel grant students received mentorship and advice from the AFA travel grant panel, and so generously providing their time and insights were Bruce Carlin, who unfortunately, because of weather, couldn't physically make it, Alex Edmonds, and Wei Jiang. And so I very much want to thank them for their wonderful, wonderful efforts on that. Just a few statistics about the AFA travel grants. This year there were 145. That's down from 191. This was domestic 49 and international 96. That is a substantial decline, and the number of travel grants and applications, nominations, is stochastic from year to year. It depends in part on location, and the expense reimbursement is based on estimated cost of travel, so number of nominations depends, among other things, on the location. So with that, I would like to turn things over to the Journal of Finance editor. I know it's anticlimactic after the VP report, but Stefan Nagel.
All right. So I'm going to present the Journal of Finance editor report. Our team has now been in charge at the GF for about 1.5 years. And during the past year, we have seen the first batches of papers come through all the way to acceptance. But even so, keep in mind that many of the numbers I'm going to talk about today, of course, still reflect the work of previous editors, especially when it comes to things like impact factor and so forth. So let me start giving you a few numbers. Let me start with submissions statistics. So in terms of new submissions, we received 1,030 submissions this year of new papers. This is a little bit down from the previous year. Resubmissions are up a little compared to the previous year. And this year we also implemented 2 policy changes that actually affected these numbers a little bit, or more precisely affected the interpretation of these numbers when you think about year-to-year comparisons. So I want to this year present you a little bit of a more detailed breakdown on what's some of the factors that are influencing these changes of these numbers. So one policy change we made, and this is something I explained in a bit more detail in last year's report, was that we decided when a new editorial team took over to discontinue the use of reject and resubmit. So we want to give authors either a clear reject or a clear revise and resubmit, but we are no longer doing reject and resubmit. This had a number of reasons, but one of them was also to improve the transparency of the statistics of the editorial process. And one of the ways in which reject and resubmits, in some sense, distorts editorial statistics is that there's a double counting in new submissions, because when rejections and resubmits come back, they're counted as new submissions. And what you see in this chart is that at a JF until our team came on board in July 2016, there were about 10 to 15 papers per quarter that were actually rejected and resubmits, but that were counted as new submissions. And so this has pretty much gone away since then, and will very soon go to zero exactly. And so this certainly had an effect on the new submission numbers. Another change that we made is kind of a little change, but it did have some effect on the submission numbers, which is, from an economist viewpoint, actually also kind of interesting. There were 3 countries that got reclassified in terms of in our submission fee schedule from low-income to middle-income countries. which meant they no longer qualified for free submissions. And prior to this change in March 2017, we got about 10 to 15 submissions per quarter from these countries, these 3 countries. And this went pretty much to 0 after this change. Anyway, so if you take out these 2 effects and look at submission numbers, new submission numbers without reject and resubmits, without these 3 countries, we actually had a little bit of an increase over the past year. Turnaround times, so there's no big change there. The median turnaround is 45 days, fairly quick. 100 plus days is about 10%, around 10% of all submissions. That's certainly something, it's fairly quick, but we are still working hard trying to improve this further in the future. The quality of the flow that we are seeing is pretty good. Our desk rejection rate went down a little bit to 35% this year, but without any change in our policy, but that's just how it happened. The probability of a first round revise and resubmit is around 10%, pretty close to 2016, and much higher than the somewhat abnormally low rate that we had seen in 2015 under the previous editorial team. How many rounds does it take? So if a paper gets accepted, in 2017, this happened for half of the papers after 1 round of revisions, and for 90% of the papers after 2 rounds. And so I think this is fairly good. And also keep in mind that in 2017, for quite a few of these now, there is no hidden first round anymore due to reject and resubmit, because we got rid of the reject and resubmits. In terms of articles published, the JF had a little bit more than 60 articles last year. That's a number that we think will probably go up in the next year and maybe the year after as well, because towards the end of 2017, we had a relatively large number of accepted papers coming through that, as the previous editorial team was working through the tail of its, the remaining papers that they were still handling. So I think we will have to increase the number of articles per issue in the next year, quite likely. The quality of papers at the JF, is very high. You can see this in the impact factor statistics and citation statistics. So here are the total citation numbers for all journals in economics, business, and finance. And the Journal of Finance now has moved up to a 2nd spot after the AR. In 2015, this was still we were still in number 3, and now we are number 2 here. In terms of the 2-year impact factor, so this is basically how often papers published in 2014 and 15 got cited in 2016. The JF also moved up from 4th place now to 2nd place, just behind the QJE. Same story kind of for the 5-year impact factor. Here, the JF is also just behind the QJE and behind the Journal of Economic Literature on 3rd place, and this is unchanged from the year before. All right, so these were the statistics I wanted to show you. Let me finish that part of my report with little thank you notes. I want to thank my co-editors, Philip Bond, Amit Saru, and Wei Zhong. It's really an honor to work with such a distinguished and great team, and I'm very grateful for their work. I also want to thank our hardworking associate editors and the many, many referees that are helping us. We know that we are asking a lot when we are sending out these requests to referee papers and to help us, in the reviewing process. And your work for the profession and your service to the profession is very much appreciated. Last, but not least, I would also like to thank our assistant editor, Wendy Washburn. I'm not sure whether Wendy is here. Is Wendy here? No? So I'd like to thank her very much. She's running the day-to-day operations of the Journal of Finance, and we would be pretty much lost without her. So we are very, very happy that we have her on board. All right. So this was the Journal of Finance editor report. I want to now turn to our prizes. And as you know, we are at the JF every year giving 2 prizes. The Brattle Group Prize for the best paper in corporate finance, and then the Amundi Smith-Breeden Prize for papers, the best paper in other areas, not in corporate finance. A first prize for these two carries an award of $25,000, and a distinguished paper prize comes with $10,000. And we are very grateful for the support of Amundi Smith Breeden and the Brattle Group, and maybe we should give our donors an extra round of applause at this point. At this point, I would also like to note that or give you a heads up that the name of the Amundi Smith Breeden Prize is going to change from now on. It's going to be called the Amundi Pioneer Prize because Amundi Smith Breeden has merged with Amundi Pioneer. So this is just a heads up of what's coming the next time we are doing these awards. A little bit of information about the procedure, how we select those prizes. So we basically ask our associate editors to first self-select to vote for one out, or if they want both of these prizes, they can do so, self-select based on their expertise. We collect their top 3 rank ordered papers from the AEs, and based on this, these rankings from the AEs, we, the editors, then look at the highest ranked papers, and we make the final selection from that group of papers. And so I'm going to start with the Brattle prizes, and at this point I'd like to ask Linda Barucki from the Brattle Group, if she's here, to come up and help us present the awards to the authors. And then also Amit, and if Philip is here. Is Philip here? No? Yeah. Okay. So Amit Zero, my co-editor, is also going to help present the awards. All right, so there's Philip. Okay. And the AV people asked me to maybe stand close to the table when you give the awards so that you're in the light. All right, so the first distinguished paper for the Brattle Group Prize is Housing Collateral and Entrepreneurship by Martin Schmalz, David Strayer, and David Tesmar. Okay.
You can go. You're done.
The next distinguished paper prize is Mortgage Debt Overhang, Reduced Investment by Homeowners at Risk of Default by Brian Meltzer. Okay, and the first prize goes to Financial Contracting and Organizational Form, Evidence from the Regulation of Trade Credit, Emily Bresa and Andres Lieberman. All right, so this were the Brattle prizes, and now we're going to turn to the Amundi Smith Breeden prizes. And is Wei Zhang here? Yeah, Wei's here, so Wei's gonna present the awards to the Amundi Smith Breeden Prize winners. And so for the Amundi Smith Breeden, the first distinguished paper prize goes to Retail Financial Advice, Does One Size Fit All? Stephen Förster, Juhani Lenainma, Brian Meltzer, and Alessandro Brevitero. Yeah, your name should be on. All right. The next distinguished paper is Misspecified Recovery, Jaroslav Borovichka, Lars Peter Hansen, and Jose Schenkman. Okay, and this leaves us with the first prize. The first prize is Benchmarks in Search Markets, Daryl Duffy, Piotr Dvorchak, and Haojang Zhu. All right. Congratulations to everybody.
So at this point in the program, we introduce the 2019 fellow. Let me first describe the procedure for the election of the fellow. So it works in 3 stages. The first stage is that the president-elect hosts a dinner for the fellows, and there's discussion and nomination of candidates. The president-elect takes that list and presents it to the nominating committee. The nominating committee, and all the details of the committee are on the website, considers those names and can add names or subtract names, and the nominating committee comes up with a slate. And it's usually 3 to 5 candidates. And then the past president administers an election, and the people voting are the existing fellows of the association. So that's how it works, and I am very pleased, as past president, to introduce the 2018 fellow of the AFA, and it is Robert Ward Vishney. So Rob is the Myron S. Scholes Distinguished Service Professor of Finance at the University of Chicago. Rob is a Chicago person. He was born and raised in Chicago. He got his undergraduate degree from Michigan in economics, math, and philosophy, and his PhD from MIT Econ in 1985. When he was at MIT, he met his wife Karen and began a career-long collaboration with his good friend Andre Schleifer. From there, he went to the University of Chicago's Graduate School of Business, where he's taught most of the last 32 years, apart from several years away from academia in the mid to late 2000s. So in financial economics, Rob is best known for his work in 2 broad areas. Number 1, corporate governance, including law and finance and the legal origins theory. And number 2, behavioral finance, including the limits of arbitrage and the behavioral approach to the value and momentum anomalies. He's also worked in the area of political economy, including topics such as corruption, privatization, and rent-seeking. Rob's published over 30 articles in the very top economics and finance journals, and 11 articles in the Journal of Finance. He's amassed near 150,000 Google citations, including his 1998 JPE paper, Law and Finance, which is over 30,000 Google sites, and the 1997 Journal of Finance paper, which has nearly 20,000 citations. The joint work on the value anomaly led Joseph Lakonishak, Andre Schleifer, and Rob to start LSV Asset Management in 1994, which currently manages over $100 billion in client assets. Rob left his active role at LSV in 2006. Rob's wife, Karen, is a psychotherapist, and in Rob's soul-searching time away from academia, he even got a master's degree in counseling psychology. Indeed, he had to take the GRE for a second time after 25 years. So I guess I've known Rob personally for a long time. We overlapped at the University of Chicago. He was assistant professor during my last year when I was a student, and I saw him in action and was in awe. He was made full professor in like 4 years. Here's my take on Rob. In writing papers, I think Rob is interested in what's true about the world. Not in being clever, not in being elegant, not in doing what his colleagues would like, not in being provocative. He wants to write what he feels comfortable is actually true. That is a great role model for all of us. Members of the American Finance Association, Robert W. Vishney, your 2018 fellow. Rob?
Thanks, Cam, for those very kind remarks. I wanted to first thank the fellows and the association. I'm especially appreciative because I know I haven't exactly been a fixture at these meetings over the years. I even went missing in action from the profession for several years. So I appreciate this, especially this recognition. I also especially want to thank my longtime and frequent co-authors who have played an important role in everything that I have done. And first and foremost, Andre Schleifer, my very good friend. Little did I know that 35 years ago when I met him, and we were hanging out in the NBER until odd hours in the morning, that I would be doing all my work with him for the rest of my career, and it's really been a pleasure. I also want to thank some other people that have been very important in my research, longtime and frequent co-authors, Joseph Lakonishak, Rafael Laporta, Florencia Lopez de Solanas, Nick Barberis, Randall Mork, and my newest frequent co-author, Nicola Genioli. Thank you very much for this wonderful honor.